like this person. You don't like them, right? You're certainly going to like them more than if you're going to this interaction and you were led to believe this person doesn't like you. Okay, you're not going to like this person either. Okay, tit for tat. There's reciprocal liking going on. But the thing that was more stunning about the study, so if we first look over here, targets liking for the research partner. So the participants liking for the person they interacted with. If they were led to believe in the red bar that that person likes them, they were given that expectation, they like them more than if they were given the expectation the partner doesn't like them. That's what we just said. That's obvious. Okay, that's not, that's good. That's great. That makes sense. But then they assess the research partner's liking of the target. And we have a self-fulfilling prophecy here going. In that, the research partner ended up liking the participant more when the participant had been led to believe that they liked them. You with me? It's a little bit confusing. But basically, if you think somebody likes you, you go into the interaction acting in a way that shows that you probably like them because you're very favorably inclined since you hear that they like you, and they end up liking you. And the reverse happens when you're led to expect this person doesn't like you. You're going into this interaction in a bad mood. Okay, you're not a happy person. You end up not liking them because you think they don't like you, and guess what? That person doesn't like you. Okay, in a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of way. But the point of the study is illustrating how impactful finding out somebody likes you or doesn't like you is in attraction. Okay. Okay. Last reason I wanted to sort of throw out there about why it is that similarity might lead to attraction. First, we tend to interact with others who are similar to us, and they tend to be good interactions, positive interactions. We assume that similar others like us, and when others like us, that's cool. We like them. There's reciprocal liking. And we could like similar others because they validate our beliefs and attitudes. We like to feel like, this goes back to that theme of wanting to feel like we have a good, clear understanding of the world, that sense of prediction and control, and being around similar others who say, yeah, your religion is the bomb. Okay, that is like, I totally agree with you. Okay, I know nothing about religions. I can't even give an example, but people who share their religious beliefs, people who share their political beliefs, I mean, it's very validating to be hanging out with fellow liberals or conservatives. We like to be validated, to feel the sense that what we believe, our worldviews are correct. So that may also be a reason why we're drawn to people who are similar to us. Okay, last but not least, and definitely not something that most people list as one of their top 3 factors. Did anyone put physical proximity, also known as propinquity, which means the person is nearby? Anyone spontaneously put that in their top 3? Seriously? Okay, can I ask what your other 2 were? Oh, awesome. So what were you thinking when you put proximity? What did you say? Long distance? Yeah, okay. So it's not one that people typically think of, comes off the tongue really easily, but if you look at personal ads, for example, you will see, I haven't looked at them in a long time, so things could change in this weird dating world that we now live in, but a lot of times people will say must live in the East Bay, or must live. So people do have some sense of the need to be able to see each other and interact, right? That there is something to be said for propinquity, for physical proximity. Although here, remember, we're talking about initial attraction. We're not talking about what helps relationships last, which might be physical proximity for many of us. Here we're talking about being attracted in the first place because somebody is nearby. Now, there are obvious reasons for that, okay? Obvious and boring reasons. One of them being, well, of course you're attracted to people who are nearby because those are the people you actually bump into. How can you be attracted to somebody you never even see? Okay? So, well, I just skipped way ahead. I'm coming back to this. Hold on. Okay. They're more available. They're more accessible. It could also be because people who are nearby you assume that they're similar to you. If they're on the same college campus as you are, you have similar go bears kind of thinking. Okay? How is awesome. If they're in the similar dorm as you, they have a similar mentality. Studying is really important or partying is really important. Okay? So some really obvious reasons why being nearby another person, this is a major factor when it comes to relationship initiation, the attraction phase. Before I say a little bit more about reasons why, let me tell you about a classic study looking at physical proximity in a really, really straightforward way. This was a study done by Leon Festinger, the same guy who gave us social comparison theory and cognitive dissonance theory. And he brilliantly, with his colleagues, took advantage of a period of time in our history where there were a lot of GIs coming back from World War II at the same time, and they were promised a college education by the government. And so they're coming back from World War II. College campuses are being flooded with these returning soldiers, and therefore there was a huge demand to build housing or have enough housing for this sudden influx of college students. And unlike a lot of college students here, these GIs, a lot of them had families already, so they had to build not just dormitories, but apartments to accommodate wives and children, full-fledged families. At MIT, they responded to this need by building this apartment complex known as the Westgate Apartment Complex. And Festinger saw this as a brilliant opportunity to look at this notion that proximity may play a factor in terms of who becomes friends with whom, in terms of attraction to one another, in this case in terms of friendship. So in the spring of one year, I don't know when it was, 1940-something, I have no idea, maybe 1948, all these families moved into these 7 apartment buildings, each with 10 apartments, all at the same time, and Festinger and his colleagues went around after a certain period of time and interviewed each family and asked them who they socialized with who lived in the apartment complex. So let me just show you what it looks like, the apartment building. So there were 17 of these buildings, 10 apartments each, so 5 on each floor. You can see that there's 19 feet in between 6 and 7, 1 and 2, 9 and 10, and 5, 4 and 5, 32 feet between 8 and 9. You can see that apartment 1 and 7 are near the stairs, as is 9 and 5. So there's all these different distances between apartments, different floors, and so forth. So they went around, they interviewed, simply asked, hey, so who do you socialize with? You socialize with the people in apartment 12? Do you socialize with these people? Etc. Of the 272 possible next-door pairings, okay, they're just next door to each other, so 19 feet or 32 feet, they're next door to one another, 41% were friends. Of the 202 2 doors down pairings, okay, this is the same floor still, but they're an extra door away, so another 19 feet away, let's say. The likelihood you're going to be friends with them drops in half to 22%. If you live on opposite ends of the hall, good luck making friends. Okay, this is not enormous distance apart, but imagine your dorm. Think about your dorms, for those of you who have lived in dorms, and think about who you became friends with. Was it the case that you're more likely to be friends with the person across the hall and next to you than the person 5 doors down from you, even though you're on the same floor? Okay? Now, in doing further analyses, what Festinger concluded, though, was that it's actually not just a function of physical distance, that actually, when you look at the data more carefully, it's functional, not physical distance. And by functional distance, what Festinger and his colleagues meant is it's the distance that's involved when you are going about your everyday life, the kinds of tasks you have to engage in your everyday life. So in the dorm example, some of the rooms are by, I don't know what dorms look like these days, but back in my day at college, there's like a group bathroom right down the hall. You got to schlep all your toiletries there. And there are certain rooms that are right by the bathroom. And so everyone goes to the bathroom, and everyone showers, hopefully. And so functionally speaking, you're pretty close to the people who live right by the bathroom, because in the course of your everyday life, you do have to pass their rooms. So you're actually pretty close to them. People who don't live near the bathroom, they have the least contact with people, because people aren't going to the end of the hallway. In the Fessinger apartment building complex, the people who live by the stairwells were more likely to be friends with people on the other floor. Because in the course of everybody's everyday life, I think it was particularly the case that the upstairs people were friends with the downstairs people. I mean, they're going to be friends with each other. But presumably because the upstairs people had to come down the stairs to live their lives, giving them a better chance of being closer to the people in that apartment building downstairs that was near at the bottom of the stairwells. Also, people who live by the mailboxes were more likely to have friends who live farther away from them. Again, because functionally speaking, you got to get your mail every day. Okay, if you live near the mailbox, that means you're going to be closer to people when they come get their mail every day. There's a greater chance, functionally distance speaking-wise, to be friends with other people. So functional distance is in part physical distance, but not only. Okay, and that's what they argue, that it's really functional distance, a combination of physical and everyday life distance that matters. Okay, so why does this work? I already told you obvious reasons, which you can think of: greater availability, accessibility, and implied similarity of people who are nearby. The last possible reason why physical proximity might work is something known as the mere exposure effect. What is the mere exposure effect? It is exactly what it sounds like. The idea that the more exposure you have to somebody, which is going to be more the case when somebody lives near you, your neighbor, you're going to see them more than you're going to see somebody who lives across the country from you or across town from you. The more you're exposed to something or someone, the more you're apt to like it, is this mere exposure effect idea. Familiarity breeds liking. The more familiar you are. Classic examples of this, which you guys can't even probably fathom, is that the Eiffel Tower, when it was first built, was absolutely considered a monstrosity. And now it's an iconic symbol of beauty for the city of Paris. Impressionist paintings, which are in so many dorm rooms, so many homes, so many offices, when they first came on the scene, they were not thought of as beautiful. Presumably, over time, these images, these objects, became liked because of the mere exposure effect. Politicians know about mere exposure. That's why just putting up signs with their name on it or their image on it, okay, could be an effective election tool. Okay, because mere exposure, the face of Obama, saying nothing but hope, or saying nothing at all, the idea is that getting more familiar with Obama, whatever your candidate is, presumably or hopefully will breed more liking. Okay, what's the data for this? And does this mean that if you want somebody to like you, you should keep popping up in front of them and hope that over time, exposing yourself, clothed hopefully, will increase their liking? Okay, so what's the data for this? Bob Zients, rhymes with science. This is the same guy who did our social facilitation stuff that we talked about. He showed, don't write this down, it's just to show you some evidence here. So in some studies, he showed American participants, various Chinese ideographs, and they look, I don't know if they're accurate, I can sort of write, they sort of look right. The orange bar in each case is they showed this object frequently, and the blue bars they showed it less frequently. And you can see in about 90% of the cases, the orange bar is rated more favorably than the blue bar. So average rated goodness of meaning. So they told participants, hey, these are Chinese characters. Guess what they mean? Do they refer to something good or bad? The more they saw a character, the more they assumed that it meant something good. Okay? They showed these faces of these men. How much do you like these guys? What's your attitude towards these guys? The more they saw these figures, these black and white faces of these figures, the more they said they liked these guys. In the Turkish word columns, those were, I don't know if anyone's Turkish out there, those are real Turkish words. Doesn't matter. They told participants these are real Turkish words. The more frequently participants saw these words, the more they guessed that the meaning of these words meant something positive. Okay? Now, you should be saying to yourself, well, fine. When it comes to objects like Eiffel Tower, paintings, nonsense syllables, what have you, people, yeah, the more you see it, the more you like it. But does this happen with actual people? Because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking physical attraction not to Turkish words, but to actual people. This is just a clever little thing Bob Zients did. Imagine in the Californian each day, somebody puts a Chinese, well, see, this wouldn't work here on this campus because there's so many Chinese people here, and you would know what the word means. But imagine that there weren't so many Chinese people here on campus, and there was a Chinese character put in the newspaper of Californian each day, and they varied how frequently, how many days they exposed participants through the campus newspaper to these Chinese characters. You know, a month later on, or 2 months later on, they surveyed undergraduates on this campus. This was at the University of Michigan, and people liked the Chinese ideographs, the Chinese characters that were presented more with no attention drawn to them. They were just presented more often in the daily campus newspaper than the ones that were presented less often. Okay, mere exposure. But we're still talking about objects here. We're not talking about people. Well, Zients addressed this question in a clever study where he had participants engage in a taste test study. So they had to go to different rooms, and they had to drink, things like Kool-Aid and, various things. It doesn't matter. It was just a way to get participants to have to travel to different rooms to engage in this taste test study. And what they did cleverly was they prearranged that when participants had to travel to the next room to do their next taste testing, they bumped into other participants a certain number of times. They were told not to speak to anybody as they were going to their next room. They didn't literally bump into them. They passed them by in the hallway. But what we're saying is that they had no interaction. They're just passing these people by in the hallway. Orchestrated so they passed other people by more and less times. The upshot is, at the end of the study, when they're asked to rate these other people, which must have been the most bizarre task, because suddenly they're being asked to rate people they walk by in the hallway, but nonetheless people did this, and they rated the people they passed in the hallway more favorably than the people they passed less. Okay, still don't believe me? Imagine a study done in this lecture hall, which wasn't done, so don't worry, but it could be done in this lecture hall, where at the start of the semester I could have a group of 5 female research assistants that are rated as equally attractive by an outside set of raters, and I have them come and sit right here, okay, a certain number of days for the semester. Okay, so they visited the class 0 times, 5 times, 10 times, or 15 times, and they just came to the class. They didn't make a spectacle of themselves. They didn't say anything. They just came to the class. Okay, they're equally attractive. So it wasn't the case there's some confound with ones that came more frequently being more attractive. And what you see here is ratings of the attractiveness of the visitor's personality. At the end of the semester, the professor says, hey, look at these 4 women. I want you to rate how attractive you find their personality to be. No one interacted with them. The more frequently the visitor came to the lecture hall, the more positively they were rated. Okay? Another example about how the mere exposure effect extends to actual human beings, and hence is one possible, even likely explanation for attraction in general, but for how proximity might influence attraction. Now, those of you who are interested in this effect, in your head, your wheels are spinning, thinking, how can I use this to my advantage? There are limits to this, okay? It doesn't work if the person who you're trying to get to see as attractive, for example, doesn't like you much in the first place, okay? So no amount of attraction is going to work there. Okay, so keep that in mind. Also, too much of something, of course, it can lead to boredom. Keep that in mind, okay? And also, there is a limit to this effect. It doesn't go up indefinitely. Okay, at a certain point of exposure, the effect levels off. Okay, keep that in mind as well. So this is an enormous literature, but something you're interested in. There's a lot you can read about that. Okay, we'll start talking about close relationships on Wednesday.